let us build a SSH server using the Apache MINA SSHD framework, which is written in Java language. So you might have heard about the Open SSH server, which comes with almost every operating system. That is good for remote login and transfer between the hosts. But if you want to build some product like Java or C++ or .NET or anything, you need a native SSH server or SFTP, generally not SSH. You don't allow anybody to remote log in using the business products. But most of the business products needs a file transfer feature, not the remote login feature. But how to get that file transfer feature? Some products needs to is just enough to have a SFTP client, but some products may need to act like servers, like file transfer gateways or managed file transfer products or any B2B exchange products. They need to act like file receivers, means servers. So to build, to embed the SSH server into your product or as a middleware, you need to get some framework. And so building from scratch is not viable for any business products. So there are some commercial frameworks, SFTP /SSH /SCP frameworks available. One of the free frameworks, Apache MINA, is getting better, and it is very prime to use in any of the business products. And let us dig to this into this Apache MINA SSH framework. And as I told you, none of the application level servers are targeted for remote login, but for file transfers. So our focus will be on SFTP and SCP protocols. And this framework also has a FTP server, but because the FTP server is plain, and most of the FTP servers operate as operate with SSL protocol, so FTP over SSL. But because of the passive range and active range and those multiple ports requirements, it is better not to use the FTP over SSL unless it is necessary. So for file transfers nowadays, SFTP is becoming the ubiquitous. Okay, let us dig into our task of developing a small SFTP /SCP server using the Apache MINA. You can use the binaries from this website, and you can embed the SSH server using in 5 minutes as described here. The problem with this is you don't learn much about this actual framework. It is not easy to learn because it's not a commercial product, and the documentation is poor, and help is very less, and it's not easy. So what do we do then? If we just implement this, and we can't build a real product with this, any business product with this, there will be a lot of requirements for a business product, like authentications, multiple levels of authentications, and how do you authenticate with a key, and what do you do when you get a file? Those are events, and how do you have to customize a lot, or we should not say customize, you have to implement this framework to make it as a true file transfer product. You have to add so many event handlers and features which are very abstract in the framework to suit your needs. So the best way to learn about this and develop a product is compile the sources and use the sources along with your custom code, and make as a single product, single workspace, so that you can go through the framework and see what is really happening in the entire spectrum. So let us build that. Let's get the sources, the latest sources from the website. So how do you clone the Git repository? This is the command git clone, and this is the URL, and this is the directory you want to create in that. Okay, let's do that. And it will clone the entire Git repository, and it will clone it. Once you get the entire source code, you have to build it using the, it's a Maven repository. It is built using the Maven. So using the Maven, we can build the entire thing. So all the source code is cloned into SSHD. You see this directory. It has sub-projects. SSH client means SSHD client, SSH common, contrib, core. This is the core library of the SSHD, and Git and LDAP if you want to authenticate with LDAP, MINA. This is the actual server, and SSH netty. So there are two servers. One is the MINA, and one is the SSHD netty and SSH MINA. These are the NIO servers. NIO servers means if multiple clients connects to your server, in a naive way, you can spawn a thread and handle that, serve that client. What if there are 1,000 clients connecting to your server? You cannot spawn 1,000 threads. So the way to handle large quantities of clients with fewer threads is using some kind of multiplexing. So that multiplexing technology is built into this Java NIO, and these are the frameworks which will provide the implementation in a better way. MINA, netty, and some other Grizzly. There are 3 frameworks. And SSHD Open PGP. And though SSH protocol is secure, but it cannot guarantee that it will receive all the bytes that client has transformed. And it could miss it could miss few bytes. So if you encrypt and decrypt using the PGP, so you will right away know you won't be able to decrypt even if 1 byte misses. So decryption fails. That's why I suggest you to use the PGP encryption all the time, and irrespective of your need. Even though if you decrypt immediately, but if you use the PGP encryption, then that detects if the file is complete or not. So it's better to get an error than getting the incomplete file in a true business scenario. SSD PuTTY, it accepts the PuTTY support, SCP, and SFTP. These are the most important sub-projects. This provides the SCP support, and this provides the SFTP support. These are called sub-protocols of the SSH. So these protocols are on top of the SSH. In reality, you don't use SSH directly. SSH is primarily used to remote login to the server. So business applications, you don't use the business application for remote login. You use the host SSH, OpenSSH. So this is the Spring integration. So all these projects are managed by the Maven. So there is a parent pom.xml somewhere here. And this is the pom.xml. And this pom.xml, let's see what is inside this pom.xml. So pom.xml, Apache, and this is the SSHD. This is the parent directory, Apache MINA SSHD, and inception year 2008. and user subscription and mailing list. So nothing much is here, and okay, a lot of properties for the project. So these are all high-level attributes: Java version, major, minor version, and the Java C compiler where it is, and Maven compiler, Groovy, and profile ID, and all these things, plugins. So this is the dependencies, are high-level dependencies are on MINA and Tomcat. This is embedded Tomcat, and NetIO to crypto. This is the crypto libraries. So those are the things used for as a cipher: EDD, SSA, and bouncy castle, BCP JDK15 on, and bouncy castle, and SLF. This is for logging, and so these are all dependencies for these projects. So when we build with the Maven, it has to download all these dependencies into your local repository. That is called M2 repository in your home directory. So that takes a while. And this is the parent POM. Let us see the POM inside the individual projects. Say, let's take SSHD SFTP. SSHD SFTP. And how many POM? Okay. Cat POM.xml. Cat or more. Okay, more. Okay, more is there. More POM.xml. So this has dependencies on Apache SSHD core. So it is, these are the internal dependencies, and artifact ID common, and core, and jcraft slfj. So these are the individual project dependencies. So all these things, it has to go through and download the jar files into your repository. So that takes a while. Let's build that. So let us clean build that. The target name is clean / install. So if you observe this, it goes through, these are all the projects, and it is the target build type is jars. So it has to build the jars, and compiling 304 sources to only in the SSHD common. There are, so it compiles every project, project by project, and builds the things. Let's pass for a while till it is done. Because I built before, most of the jar files are in my local repository, and it is running the test cases. So the beauty of this is in the Maven, you can include the test cases as part of the compilation, and also it downloads the dependencies. So first task is download all the dependent jar files, then build, then run the test cases. So it completes the circle of CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous development. And continuous deployment, that is the easier part, because once the artifact is made, like jar or where or EAR, and deploying it into target server and restarting the server is the easier part. So the Maven tool is great for CI/CD integration. And it is following not being resolved. Purchase, compile, SLF. Okay, it's better to read all those warnings, what it is sending. Some of the warnings are okay. Still, you will be able to compile and run. And these are the tests. So till it is done, let's talk about other things in the MINA. So this is the download directory, and you don't get much about this. And in documentation, embedding SSHD in 5 minutes, going through this is a good thing. So the main facade for creating the server is SSH server class. This is part of the common, I believe, common or core. So that's where you will get the default SSHD daemon class. Then you have to set the port on what port you want to run. And you can give the host key file. So it is always better to give the host key file so that it will be reused next time. Otherwise, each time you restart the server, it will change, and clients will get that host key change message. So in a real business scenario, that's not a good thing. And so you better always give the file so that we generate once and it reuse next time. Shell factory, avoid this because most of the products, Java applications, you should not provide that SSH capability. That is a big security risk. So unless you have a really good reason to provide this, don't provide this. And SCP command, this is needed because the main transfer protocols are SCP and SSHD. So that's a good thing to support. Let's put in the cheat sheet. Next one is set command factory. SCP command factory of my command factory. You can also use the SCP command factory on top of your command factory. So this we can skip. We just need basic SCP command factory. Then start the server. So this much is okay to start with, but in real life you need so many things. How do you authenticate with password? How do you authenticate with key? Or how do you provide the home directory? And what do you do when you get a file? How do you decrypt the file? And is there any virus scan needed? Or whom do you hand off your file once you receive it? There are so many things you need to integrate with the server. So to learn all those events and points where you need to integrate, you have to learn through the source code. So that's why let's build your server using the source code rather than the binaries. So you can download the binaries from here and build the server. But with this documentation, you can't really extend much. Means there is not enough information to extend. So let us build that. See whether it is done or not. It's still going on. So that Maven takes a lot of time to. Actually, these are the test cases. There are too many test cases to validate. So that's why it is taking a long time, because it has 7 or 8 sub-projects, and everything has its own test cases. So it takes a while. Let's wait till these test cases are done. Then we can resume our recording. So it's still compiling and running the test cases, and it is in the final step of building the actual source chip and source chip. So let's wait a few more minutes. Meanwhile, let us see this POM file in SFTP, SSH SFTP. You see there, parent. So there will be a parent POM, and inside that there will be sub-projects. They will have their own POMs. So the sub-projects carry the parent POM's signature here. So SSHD is the actual parent POM, and SFTP is, that's how they maintain the embedded projects, a group of projects. and the dependency. These are the dependencies this project has, and how to build this one, and plugins, Maven plugin, Surefire, Maven Surefire plugin, and these things. And the plugins, plugin origin, execution. So Maven will have a bunch of plugins for compiling and for doing all sorts of things. Form is a very interesting file to know. Let's see if it is done. Okay, it is done. So it gives a command report like this. So that's why Maven is called a project management tool. It's not a build tool, or it is not a compile tool or anything. It is a project management tool. Or in modern days, they call it as a CACD or CACD tool, OSGA, and all these things. So all is well here, but I want to load into Eclipse. But to load into Eclipse, we need a .project file. So Maven has a target to generate the Eclipse Eclipse project files. Eclipse colon Eclipse. Let's copy. And Eclipse colon. Okay. Eclipse. This will generate all the .project files required, the top level as well as the internal level. So I kind of copied all those things. So this is the project previously I copied. Let's switch this to a fresh workspace and import those things. Okay, workspace 3. And then this is the fresh one. Okay, we don't need that. Now we want to import the Java projects. That's from where? From the existing projects into workspace. So because that Maven Eclipse colon Eclipse, it has added all the project files. You'll see project files everywhere, every subdirectory, and okay, SSHD SFTP. Okay, project files. So these are the files that Eclipse looks in. So let us go to the existing project workspace, existing projects into workspace, and then where are the actual sources? C, apps, SSHD. So in all these subprojects, that project file is there, and Eclipse should pick up all those projects. Yeah, it has picked up all those projects. And let's import into the Eclipse. Now we want to develop our own custom SSH server using this framework. So my SSH, we are not actually using the SFTP server. To be more precise, and JDK8, for now, let's go with the JDK8. Okay, my SFTP server. And let us create a package com dot say b2b dot my SFTP. My SFTP. Okay. In that, I will create a my SFTP server class. Say my SFTP server. Okay. So this is the starting point for our custom SFTP server. As given in the documentation, the main class to instantiate is SSH server class. You can build the barebone class, you will get it. As you see, there are two projects for MINA and NETI. These are NIO projects. NIO projects are frameworks for multiplexing the client connections at the server. So those things you have to explicitly tell what NIO server you are using the system property. So I will set to MINA service factory. That means it will utilize this project instead of the NETI. Okay. Okay, then okay, log service factory. Okay, the Eclipse done with its own compilation, I believe. So the Maven has done it, but still. Okay, let's keep moving till it is done. Then the okay, we created the default server instance, and you have to set the port. So you can set as 22 or 222. If it is a Java server, generally application servers has to be more than 1000. Don't set 22 because it clashes with the operating system port. So choose something like 4.2s or 5.2s or like that. So 1022 or 2022 or like that. Then you have to, what is the key provider? So this is the host key file. You will set, so when the server comes up, it needs to have its own host key. That file is hosted server. So each time it comes up, it rereads that so that it won't generate the new host file. And then we need the SFTP support that is given by this one, set subsystem. Very important. So without that, the SFTP feature won't be added to this SSH server. As I told, SFTP and SCP are sub-protocols. So you don't get that directly. You have to attach that sub-protocols. And you can add the SCP support also as a SCP command factory. You see, this is the Apache MINA way of adding the SCP and SFTP subsystems. This is called a subsystem, SFTP, but SCP is called a command factory because it is only a single command. It is not interactive, whereas SFTP is a full-blown subsystem. And so and what else? Then you can add the virtual file system. So once the user logs in, where do you point to? Those things you can set using the virtual file system. So see apps directory or something like that. And then how do you authenticate the user? Using the password and or how do you authenticate? For a simple thing, you can create another subclass like this by extending the authenticator, password authenticator, or you can simply use this so that you can directly write the code itself there. a Java 8 Lambda expression for the interface password authenticator. Password authenticator is a single interface, single function method interface, which is a functional interface. So it takes, if you pass test and password, and that users will be validated. So this is a good example for a Lambda expression. Then public key, how do you want to authenticate the public keys? So there will be authorized keys file in this directory, and authorized keys authenticator will go to that file and compares that to public key, the private key you try to connect to this server, and it will authenticate with that. And then you start the server and spit out that you started it. So that's it. Okay, you see this string and these IO service factory and virtual file system factory, they are available. Still, it's not recognizing. They're available. See, IO service factory is available in SSHD core, but still, it's my this custom project is not recognizing because I didn't add these projects to the as a dependent projects. So let us add them as a dependent projects. Build path, projects, add, select all. So add all these projects. Apply and close. Okay, now let us see hover over those things. Import. Before that, this hint is not there. Now we added those to the build path. Now it is recognizing those things. So the Control Shift O will import all. And set home directory. Oh, it requires a path. Set home directory. Okay, not applicable for string, so it needs a path. How do you get path? The easy way is new file. I think from files also you can get it, but let us do this. To path and SFTP logger. Create logger. Why it is SFTP logger? Because we didn't create that log statement. So there should be a log statement in the beginning, or we will ignore that. Yeah, SFTP logger is equal to logger. We have to create that. Okay, yes, to ignore that for now. So this throws the what exception? Add throws declaration. Okay, IO exception it throws. Okay, fine. It's not a big deal. Now we will run this server. Run as Java application. Now it is running the Java application. And the port is 222 and the test user is test and password is password. Let's try to test that our server. SFTP -o port is equal to 222 and test at localhost. So if you don't give a host, it will bind to the local host. See if it recognizes. Okay, add correct key to known hosts to get rid of this message. Okay, known hosts, because I ran it previously, so it is clashing. IP and .ssh and known host on host and get rid of this. And let's try to connect with that. Yes, I trust you. And password is password. That's what we are checking for. Now we connected. You see, test and password. Then we'll connect. We'll see what is the directory we'll get. This is the one. So that is nothing but C apps, TR. Yeah, this is the C apps directory. So by default, every user is getting this directory. But there is a way to set per user. So that is that we can dig into that later or other videos. So this is the simple way of way of customizing the SSH and building through the source code. The main advantage I want to show you is you can learn about this framework by putting the breakpoints. Let's see how it is doing this. Say start. What happens? Okay, let's put the breakpoint here. Start. Now stop the server. Okay. Anything running? Anything running? Terminate and disconnect all. Okay. Now let's debug this. Instead of launching the server, launch the server in debug mode. And now let's try to connect. And so we put the breakpoint and start itself. So it should come here and wait. So now the entry point is SSH server for your facade. So the control should come here. Did we start? How did we start? Did we start in debug? Okay, let's stop and start in debug mode. Oh, throws. Oh boy. Check config and puts the in the wrong place to get the breakpoint. That's my bad. Okay, let's make sure that nothing is running. Now let's run it. Okay, now it kicked in the breakpoint. Now you can learn what is happening in check configuration. You can step into it or step over it and go to the next one. If you step into it, you will know what is check configuration doing. Okay, step over it and validate, check true. It is very time consuming to learn what is really going on in the under the hood. But if you are really doing a commercial product and you need to know all the things that goes on under the hood, so there's no way you can just read the documentation and build a product. You have to know what it is doing at the source code and learn the things. And that's the main reason why I'm showing this, building this server from the all the dependent sources and customizing. This is only this way you can learn about this framework thoroughly. Now you can change the loggings and all that and split more log information here. Individual logs, or there should be log files, log4j everywhere here. Resources or somewhere. Log4j here. You just uncomment all these things, and you'll get more logging. And also here, instead of info, change into debug or trace, you'll get a lot of logging. So in development, it is always put trace so that you will get lots and lots, and you can learn lots and lots. like Apache MINA. It should also have the log4j where SRC test resources. Okay, main Java. There anywhere? Okay. SRC test. So wherever they are hiding that log4j file, then we can change that. MINA test should have somewhere. Log4j or whatever logging they are using. So that concludes this custom building the custom SSH server using Apache MINA framework. Thank you very much.